So, if you can take us through the compositional processes of your song and what elements did you implement from the 3 albums and use sort of in your own song?
In the Rai Kuda song, as stated before, I like the idea of this, of Don't Call Me Red, where it was divided into 3 sections, and the first and last section sort of tied it in together, and they sort of resolve back to each other. Um, I, I, I wanted to make this Americana sort of acoustic guitar bass song, but then in the middle section of Rai Kuda's Don't Call Me Red, there is a massive tangent, and you get a lot of unison singing, you get a lot of percussive instruments coming in, and I think that's what the challenge was, and that's what I needed to tackle. Get it, it was all well and good having these 2 acoustic sort of Americana pieces, but then the middle section was quite key, and we ended up writing more of a gypsy jazz style middle section, which is fine because I think I've referred back to Don't Call Me Red enough that I could have a little bit of freedom on how I wanted it to sound. But my process was just literally, I listened to Don't Call Me Red a few times, and it stuck out to me as a song that I liked and I enjoyed listening to. And at the time I was watching Breaking Bad, the TV series set in the southern part of USA, and has a lot of relation with Mexico and the border, so I was just strumming in A minor, just this chord progression, and I started thinking, I could sing about this, about people trying to cross the border, and I started looking into I use like what Americans use as sort of a derogatory term for Mexicans, things like beaners. I looked into the Spanish for That's Not My Name, and I really wanted to make it quite angry, but at the same time I wanted the vocals to be quite croonery, like on Don't Call Me Red they're haunting, but at the same time that they're quite from the gut when he's singing. It's that's how I wanted to impose on it. But the lyrics, I think, are quite smart in some places. I have references to Uncle Sam, and it's from the Mexicans' point of view. They want to go to this country, but at the same time they're only leaving because it's the only place of opportunity. And will they really get treated the same as if they stayed? And for the Vampire Weekend song lyrics, I referred to how Vampire Weekend used time and places which isn't apparent to like a listener just on listening to the song. You might need to have a little bit more in depth about Vampire Weekend. Things like In Step, where it's relating back to Berkeley, and you have items of the time, so you have like the boombox and stuff famous in like the early 90s, so it's obviously taken from a memory of his. So I wrote the song Zeitgeist, and the lyrics are all about when I was younger, about 15, 16, 17. When I was in college, I used to go around and have like house parties at my friend Sonny's house, which was in the centre of Bristol, where I come from, and it's a lot of references back to the places there. So you have the reference to Park Street and the Portway, Queen Square, all in Bristol. And again, it's not apparent to someone listening straight away, but also it imposes that sort of intimacy and the memory from the singer, and I think it's quite nice that it's not straightforward for the listener. But that was my ideas for songwriting. Amy's song I didn't really have a say on. I sort of just got asked, and I went in and I done it.
Okay. So sort of how do you think you've developed, and like what you've learned the most throughout the project, like what you'll take from it the most, and or when working on other things, what will you do completely differently from what you've learned from this?
things I would do differently, I think what lacks in this final project is we sort of get sent away, and it's hard to attain all these skills in a short amount of time. Like we're never gonna be able to, play slide guitar like Rai Kuda or anything like that, and it is that's what I think I've gained from it. I've had to put myself in a position where I've had, like, not only with my instrument, but thinking about Vampire Weekend, how they use like instruments in different sections. Say in the verse, they'll be playing a chord progression, but it'll be on the keyboard, and then in the next verse the keyboard will be out of it, and it'll be just drums and vocals. And I think that's what I've learnt a lot more about songwriting. That it's not always about like how much is in there. Sometimes it's about how much you take out of it, and how much space there is for different instruments. But I think I've progressed in certain aspects. I think in other aspects that, such as like musicianship, I don't think I've quite grasped the rhythms of Rai Kuda songs to a great extent, and I think guitar wise, I don't think I've improved on guitar over this course. I think I've neglected playing guitar more on this project. Sorry, not on the course, but on this project. It'd be nicer if I did learn new skills on the guitar for these songs, but especially songs like Vampire Weekend and Laura Marlin, they're not out of my depth to play, so it's quite frustrating that you want to sort of tackle harder things to play on your first instrument, but at the same time, it's not so much how good you are at playing, it's how good you are at constructing the songs. It's a lot more about that, and I've learnt that you really have to pick apart music, and you have to sort of check out what clogs fit together to make this end product, and it's definitely not the easiest thing in the world, but it's a tool that will come in very handy in the industry, definitely.